Hi, my name is Stephen, and I'd like to share with you my social software pitch for Sauer's Elementary School. First of all, in the interest of full disclosure and Sauer's moral compass, I need to tell you that I barter. That means I have a working relationship with a company in India called Synapse, where I evangelize their products and services in return for discounted services. With all that out of the way, let's take a quick look at how software has evolved over the years. Generally speaking, first-generation applications targeted personal productivity. Second-generation apps introduced the concept of groupware and the ability to share more than just messages. And now third-generation apps expand on both our personal and our group needs. Now, sometime back in the 15 or 1600s, John Donne told us that no man is an island. In other words, in order to thrive, we need to coexist with others. More recently, though, back in 2006, Dan Tapscott wrote how not only has technology empowered us to work together, but that collaboration using these tools has changed everything. So collaboration now is not simply a nice to have, but a need to have. But as anyone who's ever worked in a group project before knows, collaborating isn't always easy. It's often difficult to get everyone to agree. You need some sort of consensus, as everyone ever expects to arrive at the same place. So what's wrong with this picture? In order to collaborate, someone has to step up, raise their hand or head. But the beauty of collaboration is that it doesn't always have to be one person all the time. It can be shared among several people. So now the challenge is, when do you lead and when do you follow? And when you follow, who do you follow? The problem is sometimes it's easier to let others lead because we're afraid to try, or fear no one will have the guts to follow us. And you know what? It doesn't matter how old we are, whether we're working on a class project, or an elementary school, or in a big company, or just dealing with our brother, sister, mother, father, husband, or wife. But the truth is, heroes come in all shapes and sizes. And oddly enough, we can still be a leader by following, provided we choose to follow the right people for the right reasons. So how can we try going from a stressful situation to a happy place? One where we have the confidence and self-esteem to freely lead and follow based on our own personal values and not those fabricated by a crowd. So let's take a look at some of the tools we can use to help us define who we are as opposed to what others say we are. I've taken some of Synapse's marketing material and I made a few corrections for the purposes of illustrating how their stuff can fit into our school. So we're talking about a change in culture or change in the way things work here. We want to use things like wikis, which are kind of like living documents, not just something that lives on your hard drive or in My Documents, but something out there for people to collaborate on and to share. If you take a look at some of the other things you could share out there, these are things you've all done before inside school. Something like a blog is really just a journal, where it could be some innocent thoughts, perhaps one day turning into some profound insight. We can use pictures to share things, events, happenings in our own life, happenings in school. We can even create videos and post them, like in YouTube. Things like bookmarks can be shared for your favorite sites or places where to help you do your homework, maybe a math site perhaps. Some school calendars, some special events coming up. Things you want to share, what you're doing, what you're working on with the people in your network. And different spaces could be for different schools or different interests. And in all these things you create, you can always have discussions or comments back and forth within each one of them specifically. You can easily search across it, kind of like Googling your own website. But the point is, everybody can communicate in one place and share the same thoughts or opinions. In the end, what we hope to create is something called edu, for education.syn.in. Now let's talk about the project. Believe it or not, there is some value in learning things like Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. Because if you know how to use these tools, you'll surely know how to use things like blogs, wikis, and discussions, which are simply tools to help us get to where we want to be. It's really just a matter of creating our own live stream, something that's unique to us as our own fingerprint. But before we go too crazy, let's listen to some practical advice.
Let me give you some very practical tips. First of all, I want everybody here to be careful about what you post on Facebook.
So let's talk about what we're going to do and how we're going to do this. Like it or not, someone has to pay for this, and the answer is not always the school or mommy or daddy. This time, we're going to pay for it ourselves. Fortunately, payment is not always in the form of money. As already proven, payment can be in the form of barter. So what do we have that Synapse could possibly place a value on? Well, here's a thought. How about our knowledge, our insight, and our skill sets? Maybe we could document how we learn to use Synapse's software to help us collaborate on things like homework, grad committees, or class projects. That way, others, just like us, will be able to benefit from our experience. Now, it's one thing to plant a seed, but it's quite another to get it to grow. In order to succeed at collaborating, we're going to have to grow ourselves. We're going to have to use these tools like blogs and wikis and discussions and status messages to express who we are and what we value, what we like and even what we don't like. In other words, our very own online presence. So the next time someone's wondering who to follow, maybe they'll think of us. Now, by definition, projects have start, end dates, and aim to deliver something of value. So here's one suggestion. Synapse currently has a best practices guide for big companies also looking to succeed in changing their way of life or their culture. How about we take the next 3 months and transform the guide into Synapse's best practices guide for elementary school students, similar to what I did earlier with Synapse's marketing material. That will be our measurement of success. If we succeed, then we can look forward to other projects like working with students in other schools, cities, provinces, countries, maybe even languages. Imagine sharing a project with someone who could work on it when we're asleep and vice versa. Imagine both teams recording the presentations and posting them to our very own YouTube. Now, to get started on our journey, we'll need the school's permission, Synapse's agreement, and finally, a few volunteers to start contributing. The end.